Most people think being single means something is missing. But what if it actually means something is about to arrive? What if the loneliness you've been feeling isn't rejection, but preparation? There are moments in life when everything seems quiet on the outside, yet deep inside, something is shifting. You can't fully explain it, but you feel it. The conversations that once excited you now feel meaningless. The attention that once made you happy now feels empty. You're no longer interested in temporary connections, late-night distractions, or people who come and go without purpose. And maybe that confuses you. Maybe you've even questioned yourself, wondering, why am I pulling away from everything? But what if this isn't you losing interest? What if this is you being realigned for something deeper? Because here's the truth most people don't realize. Before something meaningful enters your life, everything that isn't aligned with it starts to fall away, not by force, but naturally. And that can feel uncomfortable. It can feel like isolation. It can feel like delay. But in reality, it's transition. You're not going backwards, you're being positioned. Positioned for a connection that isn't built on convenience, but on purpose. Positioned for a relationship that doesn't drain you, but completes the peace you've already found within yourself. And lately, you've probably noticed another shift. The way you see yourself has changed. You're not seeking validation the way you used to. You're not chasing attention. You've started to value your time, your energy, your emotions. You've learned how to be alone without feeling empty. And that right there, that's powerful. Because when you stop needing someone, you become ready for the right one. This is the stage where many people get it wrong. They think nothing is happening, when in reality, everything is aligning behind the scenes. So if you've been feeling this inner change, this quiet transformation, this unexplainable sense that something in your life is about to shift, don't ignore it. Because these aren't random emotions. These are signs. Signs that your season of singleness is not just ending, but evolving into something greater than you expected. And in this video, I'm going to reveal 3 prophetic signs that clearly show your season of being alone is coming to an end. And what you're about to step into next might just change everything. And the first sign, it's subtle, but once you notice it, you can't unsee it. You are no longer entertained by temporary connections. There was a time when attention felt like something valuable. When a message popping up on your phone could instantly lift your mood, when small talk and surface-level conversations felt like enough to fill the silence. You might have once enjoyed the excitement of getting to know someone new, the thrill of uncertainty, the rush of being noticed. But now, something has changed. That same attention doesn't hit the same way anymore. Those same conversations feel repetitive, empty, almost exhausting. It's like your soul has outgrown something your habits are still trying to hold on to. You find yourself pulling back, not because you're bitter, not because you've given up, but because deep down, you can feel that it's no longer feeding you. You can sense when someone is only there for convenience, when their words lack depth, when their intentions are unclear. And instead of ignoring it like before, instead of entertaining it just to avoid being alone, you quietly step away. You don't argue, you don't chase, you don't try to force something that clearly has no foundation. And that right there is growth, real growth. Because when your season of singleness is truly coming to an end, one of the first things that happens is a shift in your standards. Not the kind of standards driven by ego or unrealistic expectations, but standards built from self-respect. You start valuing your peace more than temporary excitement. You begin to understand that not everyone deserves access to your time, your energy, your emotions. And that understanding creates distance between you and anything that isn't aligned with where you're headed. It's almost like an internal filter has been activated. Conversations that once felt normal now feel shallow. People who once seemed interesting now feel draining. And it's not because they changed, it's because you did. Your mindset elevated, your emotional awareness deepened. You're no longer looking for someone just to fill a space in your life. You're looking for someone who actually belongs in it. And this shift can feel confusing at first. You might wonder why you're suddenly less interested in things that once kept you engaged. You might even question if something is wrong with you, if you've become too distant, too selective, too hard to please. But the truth is, you're not becoming difficult. You're becoming intentional. And there's a difference, because temporary connections are built on convenience. They come easy, they feel exciting for a moment, but they lack substance. They don't challenge you to grow. They don't align with your future. And most importantly, they don't last. And your spirit knows that now. Your heart recognizes it before your mind even has to process it. That's why you feel that quiet resistance, that lack of interest, that inner voice telling you, this isn't it. And instead of forcing yourself to stay, you're choosing peace. You're choosing clarity. You're choosing to wait for something that actually feels right. That kind of patience doesn't come from weakness. It comes from strength. It comes from knowing your worth without needing constant reassurance from others. What's happening here is deeper than just losing interest in people. It's a realignment of your desires. The things you once tolerated no longer sit right with you. The type of connection you once accepted no longer feels enough. And that's not by accident. That's preparation. Because you can't step into something real while still being attached to what is temporary. Think about it. If your life was still filled with distractions, if you were still entertained by inconsistent people, if you were still investing your energy into connections that have no future, would you even recognize something genuine when it comes? Probably not. And that's why this shift is necessary. It's clearing space, it's removing noise, it's creating room for something meaningful to enter your life. And here's where it gets even more powerful. You're not just walking away from people, you're also walking away from old versions of yourself. The version of you that accepted less than you deserved. The version of you that ignored red flags just to keep someone around. The version of you that confused attention with love. That version of you is slowly fading, and in its place, a stronger, wiser, more self-aware version is emerging. You're no longer impressed by words without actions. You're no longer attached to potential. You're paying attention to consistency. You're no longer willing to settle for being an option when you know you're meant to be a priority. And that shift in mindset, that's exactly what prepares you for something real. Because real connection requires clarity. It requires emotional maturity. It requires two people who know what they want and aren't afraid to walk away from what they don't. And right now, you're becoming that person. You're becoming someone who doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't settle. Someone who stands firm in their standards, not out of arrogance, but out of understanding. And yes, this phase can feel lonely at times. When you stop entertaining temporary connections, the silence can feel louder. The absence of distractions can feel uncomfortable. You might notice fewer conversations, fewer people reaching out, fewer moments of superficial excitement. But what you gain in return is something far more valuable. Peace, clarity, self-respect. And that's the trade-off most people aren't willing to make. They'd rather stay busy with the wrong people than sit alone and wait for the right one. But you're choosing differently. You're choosing growth over comfort. You're choosing alignment over attention. And that choice is what sets you apart. Because when the right connection enters your life, it won't feel like confusion. It won't feel like chasing. It won't feel like you're trying to prove your worth. It will feel natural. It will feel calm. It will feel like something that adds to your life, not something that drains it. And the reason you'll be able to recognize it is because you've already learned to walk away from everything that isn't it. So if you've been noticing this shift, if you've been feeling less interested in casual conversations, less attracted to temporary connections, less willing to entertain anything that lacks depth, don't ignore it. Don't try to force yourself back into old patterns just because they're familiar. Because what you're experiencing is not loss, it's transformation. You're not missing out on anything. You're making space for something better. You're not becoming distant. You're becoming selective. And that selectiveness is not a flaw. It's a sign that your season is changing, a sign that you're no longer aligned with what is temporary, a sign that your heart is preparing for something real. And when that moment comes, when the right person finally steps into your life, you won't have to question it. You won't have to chase it. You won't have to force it. because everything you've been feeling, everything you've been going through, everything you've been letting go of will suddenly make sense. This is not the end of something. This is the beginning of something greater. And the second sign, it goes even deeper than what you're leaving behind. It's about who you've become in the process. You've reached a place where you are emotionally whole on your own. There was a time when being alone felt uncomfortable, maybe even heavy. Silence used to feel like something you needed to escape. You might have looked for distractions, people, conversations, attention, anything that could fill that empty space, even if only for a moment. Back then, love may have felt like something you needed in order to feel complete. Like without someone by your side, something was missing. And without even realizing it, you may have placed that responsibility on others to make you feel valued, to make you feel secure, to make you feel enough. But now, something inside you has changed. You don't feel that same urgency anymore. You're not rushing to fill the silence. You're not looking for someone just to avoid being alone. Instead, you've learned how to sit with yourself, how to understand your own thoughts, how to face your emotions without running from them. And that shift didn't happen overnight. It came through experiences, through moments that forced you to reflect, through times when things didn't work out the way you expected, and instead of breaking you, they shaped you. You started to heal in ways you didn't even realize at first. You began letting go of past disappointments, slowly releasing the weight of what didn't work, what didn't last, what didn't align. You stopped blaming yourself for things that were never meant to stay. And in that process, you found something powerful, peace within yourself. Now, your happiness doesn't depend on someone texting you back. Your mood doesn't rise and fall based on someone else's attention. You've created a sense of stability within your own life. You've built routines, thoughts, and habits that support you, even when no one else is around. And that kind of emotional independence, it changes everything, because when you are emotionally whole, you stop looking for someone to complete you, and you start looking for someone to complement you. There's a huge difference between the two. When you're incomplete, you accept almost anything that feels like connection. You overlook inconsistencies. You tolerate confusion. You hold on to people who give you just enough to keep you hoping, but never enough to truly fulfill you. But when you're whole, you don't operate from that place anymore. You don't chase what's unclear. You don't beg for attention. You don't try to convince someone to see your worth, because you already see it yourself. And that self-awareness creates a different kind of energy around you. It makes you calmer, more grounded, more selective. You're no longer reacting emotionally to every situation. You're responding with clarity. You're no longer afraid of losing people. You're more focused on not losing yourself. That's a powerful transformation. And here's the part most people overlook. This stage is not just about feeling better. It's about becoming ready. Ready for a connection that is built on stability, not neediness. Ready for a relationship that adds to your life, not one that becomes your entire life. Ready to give love without losing your identity in the process. Because healthy love doesn't come from two people who are trying to fix each other. It comes from two people who have already done the work within themselves. Two people who know who they are, what they value, and what they deserve. And right now, you are becoming that person. You've learned how to manage your emotions without projecting them onto others. You've learned how to communicate with yourself before expecting someone else to understand you. You've developed a deeper sense of patience, not just with people, but with life itself. And that patience allows you to wait without feeling desperate. You're no longer asking, "Why is this taking so long?" Instead, you're starting to understand that timing matters. That everything you've been through has been shaping you into someone who can handle what's coming next. Because the truth is, if you were given the right person before you became this version of yourself, you might not have been able to sustain it. You might have approached it with old patterns, old fears, old insecurities. But now, you're different. Now, you recognize your triggers. You understand your emotions. You know how to create balance within your own life. And that makes you capable of building something stable, something real, something lasting. And yes, there are still moments where you might feel a little lonely. That's natural. Being whole doesn't mean you never feel the desire for connection. It just means that desire doesn't control you. It doesn't push you into the wrong situations. It doesn't make you settle for less than you deserve. Instead, it becomes a quiet knowing, a calm expectation that when the right person comes, it will feel aligned, not forced. And that's what makes this sign so powerful, because it's not about what's happening around you. It's about what's happening within you. It's about the fact that you've reached a point where you don't need a relationship to feel complete. And that's exactly what makes you ready for one. So if you've been feeling this sense of emotional stability, this inner peace that doesn't depend on anyone else, this ability to be alone without feeling empty, don't overlook it. Don't think it means nothing is happening, because in reality, this is one of the strongest signs that everything is aligning. You're not being kept in this season to be tested endlessly. You're being shaped, refined, and prepared for something that requires this version of you. A version that is not easily shaken. A version that knows how to give and receive love in a healthy way. A version that doesn't lose themselves in the process of loving someone else. And when that kind of person meets the right connection, it doesn't create chaos. It creates peace. It doesn't create confusion. It creates clarity. It doesn't drain you. It strengthens you. That's where you're headed. So trust this process. Trust who you're becoming. Because the fact that you can stand on your own now is the exact reason you won't have to stand alone for much longer. And the third sign, it's the one that ties everything together. It's not just about what you've left behind, and it's not just about who you've become. It's about what you're starting to feel ahead of you. You begin to sense a strong inner shift toward partnership. It doesn't come suddenly, and it doesn't feel forced. It's quiet, almost unnoticeable at first, but over time, it grows stronger. You realize that the way you think about your future has changed. You're no longer only focused on building a life for yourself. You're starting to imagine sharing that life with someone else. Not out of loneliness, not out of pressure, but out of a genuine readiness to build something meaningful with another person. Before, the idea of a relationship might have felt complicated, even overwhelming. You may have associated it with stress, confusion, or emotional ups and downs. You might have told yourself that you're better off alone, that it's safer that way, easier that way. And for a time, that may have been true. But now, something inside you is opening up again. You're not closed off anymore. You're not avoiding connection. Instead, you're becoming receptive to it, but in a different way than before. You're not looking for just anyone to fill a role. You're not chasing attention or trying to force something to happen. What you're feeling is deeper than that. It's a quiet confidence that when the right person comes, you'll be ready to meet them where they are. And this shift shows up in the way you think. You start considering things you didn't think about before. You think about partnership in terms of growth, support, and shared purpose. You imagine what it would be like to build something stable with someone. Something that isn't rushed, something that isn't built on temporary emotions, but something that is rooted in understanding and trust. You begin to value qualities over excitement, consistency over intensity, depth over surface. And that change in perspective is important because it means you're no longer driven by impulse. You're guided by clarity. It's almost like your mindset is preparing you for a role you're about to step into. You're not just thinking as an individual anymore. You're thinking as someone who is ready to be part of a partnership. You're considering how your actions, your energy, your decisions could affect another person. And that level of awareness doesn't come from desire alone. It comes from readiness. You might also notice that your priorities are shifting. The things that once felt important may not carry the same weight anymore. You're less interested in temporary excitement and more focused on long-term stability. You're thinking about your future in a more intentional way, your growth, your direction, your purpose, and how someone else might fit into that picture in a meaningful way. And what makes this different from before is that you're not losing yourself in the idea of love. You're not imagining a relationship as something that will complete you or define you. Instead, you're seeing it as something that will add to the life you've already built, something that will enhance your peace, not replace it. That's maturity. Because when you're not ready, the idea of partnership often comes from a place of need. It feels urgent, emotional, sometimes even overwhelming. But when you are ready, it feels calm. It feels steady. It feels like something that fits naturally into your life, rather than something that takes it over. And that's exactly what you're starting to feel now. It's a subtle shift, but it's powerful. It's like your heart is opening, not out of desperation, but out of alignment. You're no longer guarded the way you used to be. You're not carrying the same fears, the same doubts, the same hesitation. You've processed those things. You've learned from them. And now, instead of closing yourself off, you're allowing yourself to be open again, but with wisdom this time. You're open, but not naive. You're receptive, but not desperate. You're hopeful, but not dependent. And that balance, that's rare. Because it means you've reached a place where you can welcome something new into your life without losing control of your own foundation. You can give without overextending. You can care without compromising your standards. You can connect without losing your sense of self. And that's exactly the kind of energy that attracts something real. What's happening here is more than just a desire for connection. It's a preparation for partnership. Your thoughts, your emotions, your perspective, they're all aligning with the kind of relationship you're meant to step into. And when that alignment happens internally, it's only a matter of time before it reflects externally. You might not know when it will happen. You might not know who it will be. But deep down, there's a sense of knowing that it's getting closer. Not because you're forcing it, not because you're chasing it, but because you can feel the shift within yourself. And that feeling, it's not something to ignore. Because just like everything else you've experienced in this journey, the distancing from temporary connections, the growth into emotional wholeness, this is another piece of the process. It's the final stage before something new begins. You're not the same person you were before. You don't think the same way. You don't feel the same way. You don't move the same way. And because of that, the kind of connection that's meant for you now is different too. It's not going to look like your past. It's not going to feel like confusion or uncertainty. It's not going to require you to question your worth or chase someone's attention. It's going to align with who you've become, and that's why this shift matters so much. So if you've been feeling this quiet readiness, this openness to something real, this calm expectation that a meaningful connection is on its way, trust it. Don't rush it. Don't overthink it. Just continue becoming the person you've been growing into. Because when the time comes, you won't need to force anything into place. It will flow. It will make sense. It will feel right. And you'll realize that everything you've been going through, every phase, every shift, every moment of growth, wasn't random at all. It was leading you here. So if you've been experiencing these shifts, don't brush them off as coincidence. Don't downplay what your heart is trying to tell you. Because this isn't random. It's a transition. A quiet, powerful transition from who you were to who you're becoming. From a season of waiting to a season of receiving. Your singleness was never meant to break you. It was meant to build you. Every moment of loneliness, every lesson, every disappointment, it was shaping you into someone who could recognize real love, hold on to it, and not lose yourself in the process. It taught you patience when things didn't happen on your timeline. It taught you strength when things didn't go your way. And most importantly, it taught you your worth, without needing anyone else to define it. Now you're not the same person anymore. You don't chase what's unclear. You don't settle for what feels wrong. You don't confuse attention with connection. You've grown beyond that. And because of that growth, you're stepping into something different, something deeper, something aligned. So don't rush this moment. Don't go backwards just because the waiting feels long. Trust what is unfolding, even if you can't fully see it yet. Because what's meant for you won't come with confusion. It will come with clarity. It won't take your peace. It will add to it. And one day, you'll look back at this season, not with frustration, but with understanding. You'll realize that you weren't being delayed. You were being prepared for something that truly lasts. If this message spoke to you, comment "I'm ready" below, and don't forget to subscribe, because your next season is going to change everything.